You have the February 12, 2018 minutes in front of you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any corrections, deletions, additions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. The first item on our agenda is a public hearing. Mr. Syed, I hope I said that right. 8960 Tibbitts Road, New Hartford, special use permit for a 24.852 kilowatt solar system array installation on this property. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak regarding this? Well, then there's no need to open and close public hearings since nobody's here.
Do you want to hear anything from the builder, or just any objection from the public?
No, that part was just for the public. You all saw this last month? Do you have any questions? Do you want any further presentation on this?
I wasn't real happy with the map that we had that showed its relationship to other properties and to the airstrip.
Do you want to see that now? Do you have that?
Yes.
So what are the heights of the arrays?
It ranges based on the elevation,
Right.
if there's any dips in the ground, but typically the back of the array, the tallest point is about 9 feet, 9 to 10 feet. It can stretch up to 11 to 12, but we do know that the zoning limitations are 15 feet and we will not exceed that.
Liz, when we redid the ordinance, it permits up to 25 kW. I think this is 24 plus
Yeah.
kW. The lot is of sufficient size. The height restriction is 15 feet.
Yeah, I was just curious because on the array sizes, they have the length and width, but they didn't have the height on the
Oh,
array.
okay. And the buffering, and it's 75 feet
Yeah,
setback?
I saw that.
Okay.
The only thing that was missing was the height.
Oh, okay.
So we have updated maps.
Okay.
There's multiple pages of it, but we do have to zoom out far enough and capture the whole property. So the array will be about 800 feet, the farthest point from Mr. Syed's home, and it'll end up being just over 1,000 feet from the front of the road.
Okay, and he's planting screening trees,
Yes, we are.
and where are they gonna be located?
We're gonna plant 28 emerald green abrevieties behind the array.
How tall are they gonna be
The abrevieties grow about 15 to 16 feet tall.
now?
No, they are gonna be 2-gallon planters, so they will be 24 to 30 inches tall when planted. With 2 to 3 years of growth, they'll be 8, 9 feet, and then within 3 to 5, they'll be almost mature.
Okay, as long as the deer don't eat them.
Yes.
Anything else, Kramer?
No, that was all I had.
Anything else, anybody? Is there a motion to grant special use permit?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. 2-lot minor subdivision for Mr. Joseph Scarafile for Sylvan Lane, New Hartford. Herb?
Yes, I've reviewed this, and I know Joe has, it's .85 acre parcel being divided into 2.425 plus or minus acre parcels. The legal descriptions are all satisfactory. I reviewed, is Joe here? He said that everything conformed to our code. It's a simple 1 to 2.
Yes, Liz?
The drainage easement is the town of New Hartford's?
I don't have the
The
map as I
20,
sit
the
here.
20-foot, subject to 20-foot
It's
wide
probably
drainage
part of the subdivision.
easement. My question, well, it says subject to the 20-foot wide drainage easement shown on the map, and I see where the drainage easement should be, and my question was probably for Joe, is do we allow structures in the easement, because there's a structure in the easement currently?
Normally we don't.
Yeah, there's a fence in a structure, and you can see in the parcel map, the surveyed map, that it says the wood stockade fence, and this is on the 11 by 17, is very close to the parcel line, and it shows the easement there. And here's the wood stockade fence with the shed structure right in the easement currently.
Joe's coming?
He's supposed to,
Okay.
unless he's confused on the other side. You want me to give him a call?
I mean, it has nothing to do with the subdivision, it's just a question of clarification of what's allowed in the easement, if there's anything in the,
So that's on the-
property.
The parent, that's on the parent parcel, right?
10 feet of the parent, 10 feet on Dr. Giambrone.
Yeah.
But just, there's nothing on, within these two lots.
No,
No.
I just,
So-
and along that line, I just had a question, with regards to the drainage itself up there. I know there's been some grading problems up there in the past. So has someone taken a look at this to make sure that if we start building, we're not gonna have drainage problems?
Well, I think all you're doing is creating 2 lots. I don't
Right,
think
but
there's any
eventually,
proposal.
okay, so we're just gonna create lots to mow? Right. I assume something's gonna, you don't usually just separate lots to.
Oh, you're gonna put a building on, right?
I don't know what he's doing, but I know he's dividing
Okay,
8
so
It's
it's
zoned
right,
for-
it's zoned for,
Yeah.
for
Maybe
residential.
zoned, I'm just asking the question. The question I had was about drainage, because there's been some grading problems up there before. Has somebody just taken a look at it to make sure if something does get built, there won't be a problem?
That has been done as part of the original application for the subdivision.
Yeah, I would think that all over town.
But that's.
I would think so all over town, yeah,
But I
but
thought
I
we
just
did
did,
that with
I don't know.
Right.
antecedent moisture condition and all those type of
Right,
things.
but the one thing by subdividing a lot, right now, there's one structure permitted to be built on it, and so you're gonna double the effective impervious surface, which will have an effect on the
Probably
drainage.
that's 1,000 square feet. 2,000
I
square feet.
don't know what the
I'm not
impervious
really
is
an
gonna be,
engineer,
but I know
just
right
looked at
downhill
problems
of
up there.
there, that's where there's issues. So, I mean, we are effectively doubling the potential for impervious surface in that, on a parcel.
And we've had problems in the past.
Yes.
So I guess I'm asking the questions, anybody, any staff look at that?
I haven't looked at stormwater, no.
No.
Okay.
Well, Heather, I don't normally.
Oh, I
You're
don't
shaking
expect
your
you
head.
to.
No, I don't
I don't
normally
expect
look
you
at
to.
stormwater.
I don't expect you to. But we got a highway superintendent, we have codes, and it's not really a planning guide, but I'm just asking the question, because all we hear, I mean, that was, the town is looking to form drainage districts all over the town because we got drainage problems, so we shouldn't have any if we approved everything. I guess that's just my question, so. I have a concern about it. I don't know what that means exactly, because there's just no one to ask. But I know there's been problems up there in the past, and I don't know that they've been addressed.
Anything else? Anybody? Is someone inclined to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I,
I'll say yes. But I'm not opposed, because I don't think there's a vehicle for us to review stormwater on a subdivision, but I think there should be.
Well, they come up with a building permit process.
But I do have a question for Joe regarding building and drainage easements.
The only problems we get into this, and I know we exited out of that further discussion, we're talking about development less than an acre. As
Right.
part of the original subdivision review plan, that this was all reviewed and addressed as part of that whole issue.
but if it was, we wouldn't have a problem up there. If everything was A-okay, there would be no problems up there, but there are. So either something's changed, or there's been, something's happened, and every time,
What has happened is when you look at the regulations, and specifically when they adopted the National Flood Insurance Program and firm maps, the firm maps take into account the 100-year storm, which is not the 100-year storm. It's the 1% likelihood of a storm occurring. That storm event does not take into account snowmelt. Nobody realizes that 1% reoccurrence interval does not take into account snowmelt. So you have the chance of exceeding that 1% opportunity in any given year when snow melts, it rains, or it gets warm. And that's an issue with the National Flood Insurance Program. It's nothing we're gonna solve here.
Right, but aside from that, the subdivision is approved, but we're subdividing lots in the subdivision, which is above and beyond what was originally planned for this purpose. So, I mean, that's where I think we have to be cautious, because if we're approving one lot subdivisions and now we switch them to half lots, we have to, I mean, because these houses are large and they cover a, greater percentage of those lots. So I think that's where we have to be careful when we have something designed and then we exceed that capacity.
And this is right on top of Giambrone, so you've got.
But our mechanisms are in front of.
No,
That's way
Yeah.
under.
I understand.
But it's
It's a national issue.
well, it's also a long-standing
It's a local issue.
and people with some folks up there talk about it all the time, and you hear about it, so.
So, I'm sorry, that was it. That's why.
We're done with this, thank you. The next item is 1.5 Jordan Road. I will be abstaining on this.
I have to as well, because myself.
Julius will take the helm.
Thank you. I'm not gonna change.
Can I just use Alice for 1 minute?
No, I would.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna change these. We have representatives for Coughlin.
That's me.
Here.
Hi,
Hello, gentlemen.
members of the board. My name is Daniel Manning.
Excuse me, folks.
Excuse me.
1 second, folks. Wait.
I probably should recuse myself.
It's up to you, Billy. It's 4 houses away from me, so it's too close.
You will? Are we set? Could you?
Start over.
Gentlemen, please introduce yourself to the board and make sure Dory Shaw gets your name and your affiliation, please.
Hi, my name is Daniel Manning. I'm an architect from Syracuse, New York. My name of my firm is Daniel Manning Architect, PLLC, 225 Wilkinson Street, Syracuse, New York. And I have been retained by Coughlin and Giambrone for the proposed relocation of their firm from French Road to 1/2 Jordan Road. It's currently zoned C3. Coughlin Giambrone's firm is complying approved occupancy for that zoning classification, and we meet all the prerequisite criteria for the zoning of the C3 for the relocation of their firm. We are proposing to do a small addition of 240 square feet. We are also proposing to add a parking lot for the clientele, which would be 8 clients. They currently have about 5,000 square feet of asphalt paving, which is a residential loop, residential driveway. And in addition to modifying the driveway entrance, removing the apron 45 feet further south up Jordan Road, away from the southwest intersection of Jordan Road and Genesee Street. They're also proposing a small addition to accommodate their employees. They have 4 employees. They would like to be able to add 1 in the future. And the small addition of 240 square feet accommodates a handicap ramp and modifying the existing rear entrance of the building, which will become their primary entrance. The existing front of the building and the sides of the building facing both Genesee Street and Jordan Road are being completely restored and left as is. It is our intent to replace the windows with new windows. They're the original windows that are there, and replace the roof, repair damaged cornices and trim, restain the exterior, and provide a very appealing restored look to the historic appearing structure as it is right now.
Yeah, I would just like to add too that my business partner, which he'll be here shortly, we were under the impression it started at 6 o'clock, so. But we've been in business for 21 years.
Could you, who are you, please?
Chris Giambrone, I'm one of the partners. Yeah, and so we've been in business 21 years, and we have been looking at buildings on and off for probably about 10 years. And one of the things that we were just unsure of is to whether we wanted to own real estate. I mean, real estate just doesn't appreciate in the area typically. And we're numbers guys, so give me a spreadsheet and I'll spend 10 hours crunching numbers. So when we look at these buildings on Genesee Street, namely Dr. Cogneto's building, Ascent Wealth Management, Brad Kowalczyk, 84 Genesee Street, which I think is John Varek and CRM, they put significant money into these buildings because they needed to be restored, they needed to be updated, and they needed to look nicer. They did that, and we always knew that if we were to buy a building on Genesee Street that we would do the same thing. So when we looked at the numbers, particularly this property, because not only is the price point on the building, it requires significant site work to transform it into a commercial property. So we signed a purchase offer, the sellers are anxious to sell, and you know, we're in our early 40s, we're young guys, and we're looking to make the property look nicer. And really when you look at that road, which we see it more as a Genesee Street building than we do Jordan Road, it's all small businesses up and down the road. It's become saturated. It looks as though the next road that will transform itself that way is Oxford Road, which is beginning to transform as well. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little brief flavor for who we were and a little bit about our backstory.
As a segue to Chris's comment about the site restoration, there's two things that we're trying to accomplish, and I didn't allude to the second thing. The first thing is we're trying to keep the parking lot, create a parking lot for 8 cars with the least amount of site disturbance. There was a previous site plan that was submitted that created the need for significant disturbance in fill, and we've modified that to create much less of a disturbance. Where any area that we're affecting, we're controlling the storm water runoff to a retention area, and then we're controlling that retained water through an outlet to the existing culverts that exist on Jordan and Genesee Street. However, the front of the building actually on Genesee Street has become very much overgrown, so the house isn't readily you can't see it from Genesee Street, and the curb appeal of their business is going to be from Genesee Street. So the second part of the site work is to remove some of the overgrown trees and brush that currently exists along Genesee Street and create a more of a mowable topographical slope that will not change the drainage pattern that currently exists on that portion of the building, and the installation of a monumental sign on the corner that complies with your signage and zoning requirements. We just received this afternoon some comments from New York State DOT. And we're used to their comments. We will address each and every one of those comments prior to the next meeting and have their approval prior to coming here again and putting ourselves on your agenda.
I think one other thing that I just wanted to mention was we were in touch with the DOT probably about 2 or 3 months ago, because we just really had it in our minds that we wanted the address to be a Genesee Street address. And I believe the way that it is set up right now is it goes from 129 to like 133, something along this. There is no like 131 Genesee, it skips over. The DOT said, we understand your concern, we don't ever want to block development, here's what we require. They wanted us to cut a one-way driveway off of Genesee Street on the west side of the building and come out and exit on Jordan Road, which we were open to doing. Paul Mancuso was the engineer, and he did some planning for it, and he said, guys, it's just a liability really. You're gonna create this one-way. The grade, if you're familiar with a realtor next door, is going to be steeper than the neighbors. So Dennis and I looked at it and called our realtor. She contacted a couple of appraisers and said that if it's a commercial property and you maintain the Half Jordan Road address, it won't hurt the resale value, not that we plan to sell it. So that made us feel better. So we just decided let's kind of bypass that idea and just move forward with a plan to keep it a Half Jordan Road.
And if you do look at the site plan, any of the topography that's tangent to the neighbor to the west is unaffected. The only changes in topography were within a 10-foot buffer of the neighbor's property line.
Julius, are you aware, did Chris take a look at this with regards to drainage?
I have no information relative to what Chris has done relative to this with respect to drainage. As part of that, in your question, in one of the discussions that we had prior to the start of this meeting, because of the recusal, if you will, of Alice and Herb, was putting this forward as a preliminary for comments out to send it out for a secret process or do a preliminary and final approval at the same time. Without comments from all of the agencies and receiving the information from DOT, when we're done with this, the request will be, do we want to do this as just preliminary, or do we want to do this as preliminary and final? I have not received anything from Chris Lawton on this. Joe just walked in, and I'm not at this time comfortable. My personal opinion is I'm not comfortable as a final. I would only be comfortable as a preliminary.
It's a steep slope.
Right.
Chris did look at it. He wasn't prepared to look at the drainage, but he did say it's much less than half an acre. So it's minor.
Do you have anything significant or anything like that that you need to offer?
Metal parking requirements, setbacks. The only thing that may be a concern is they're using the existing spaces. I know Liz usually picks up on the backing out of spaces. Is problematic, and that's just what they're doing here. No. So
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by refer to the backing out of spaces.
or existing spaces, when you back out, you're backing, you got two spaces, like 4 spaces
90
that can back into each other.
Yeah, but they're not, they're within the property, they're in a hammerhead within the property, they're not on, backing into the street.
No, we
They're
understand
able-
it.
Because,
Yes, I,
yeah, because they would be, there wouldn't be any cars parking here, they'd be in the
my
garage.
degree's in landscape architecture.
Oh. Alright. So there's plenty of turnaround room.
Guys, Mr. Rick here. I recall there being extensive grading done to that corner and those trees added. Can you give me some history on that?
We put a new sewer line in
Okay.
on that corner to take out a 90-degree at Genesee Street, and we put a 45 in up there to stop the manhole from popping.
Right.
About 5 years ago.
Okay.
And that's the way we went across the front of that.
And did the homeowner, they ask for those trees to be replaced? Is that why? Because they were large?
That's why the trees were there. She wanted that her house not to be seen,
Right, and the town paid for the trees?
and we paid for the trees to be installed.
And the one thing for you, I
Yes.
do not have a clear, I mean, you can sort of see this property line, but what's the distance, the setback from both the highway setback and the road right away? I don't,
New York State DOT has asked for the highway line to be put on the site plan,
Yes.
so I've asked that of the surveyor as well.
because it seems as though that these trees are closer to the right of way than.
They are.
Yeah, and so you would be removing trees that are in the right of way.
We have to have DOT approval to do that.
Okay.
If they say no, they stay put.
Yeah, and we're not as concerned about the pine trees on the corner. It's just if you're familiar with the property, especially in the spring and the summer and the fall, the entire property is covered in trees. So given what our use would be, we would want visibility. So our plan would be to remove most of the trees, maybe with the exception of some of those on the corner.
No, I understand, but,
Yeah.
but having been on the town stormwater committee for many years, trees do help with the control of flooding and flow of water down the hill, which is problematic. So any removal of them, may
Well, some of
create
the-
extra issues.
What I've done in the past is, especially, the conifer trees you can't do too much with. But, we could always cut up, thin out, pick ones that
Yes.
need to be thinned out, that are, maybe have some current problems going on, and the other ones we could prune them and trim them in a way to raise their canopy and allow more visibility to the property.
In as far as slope stabilization for the higher slope areas during after construction.
It's all gonna be moldable surfaces. So we would definitely reinstate a lawn that's maintainable.
Well, Julie, my opinion is preliminary only, if I had a
And that's,
I think it
you guys
needs
have
more
any,
work, and I think
it should go out to,
the green,
for
the
secret.
green space is important, and water is, that hill is fairly, pretty steep. And as I remember, there have been water issues over Genesee Street in the past at that particular spot. Am I correct in that?
It's been repaired, if you're talking sewer.
Yeah,
Yes, we repaired that about 5 years ago.
okay, but when there's heavy rain, aren't we still getting water there?
Yeah, it's probably
Yeah,
in the
that's
in the
what I
heavy
thought.
rain, yes.
Brian, do you think, what do you think?
Speak now.
Preliminary.
Preliminary?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3,
So I'll
4.
make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, so,
Now, do we need lead
well,
agent?
I'm gonna ask that question too, once we determine there's sufficient information to submit this for seeker. And I have Heather's making a motion, and who's seconding?
I second it.
Peggy gonna second it. And I'm gonna ask for, lead agency, and I'm doing this specifically because, there are only gonna be, right now, 5 of us present for final site plan review. Town of New Hartford is gonna be lead agent on this activity then. We're good with this? Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
What's that, gentlemen?
You guys have a great project. You have a great project.
I'll think,
Yeah, it's nice to see it, but
Going out to seeker.
One up.
Yeah.
but you have to be careful of the topography and with the whole change that you're proposing to institute.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't wanna see all
We always have ourselves.
It is, and it is a blind when you're coming down. I mean, there is, but it's not like it's a reasonable. I mean,
Have a good night, Larry. We have 2 abstentions.
Are we,
Adjourned.
Adjourn, sorry. Who wants to take a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
For adjourn.
I need a motion.
okay, I just think it needs more.
Like this. That already 5 people.
And I just, I mean, I really hate that we have